Good afternoon. Welcome to NASCAR's annual preseason press conference. We're glad you're here. First, I would like to welcome all of our passionate fans joining us today, watching on NASCAR.com, MRN.com, or listening on Sirius XM radio. We appreciate you being here. We know it's been a long off season. You're hungry for some content, and certainly going to have plenty of that this weekend. I want to thank all of our media here. Appreciate the big commitment this week. We know it's a challenging schedule. We're glad to have you here, and we think you're going to be well served. Before I go on, I just want to acknowledge Steve Burns and Holly Kane. We acknowledge them in Homestead. Everybody knows in here they're in a tough fight. Normally they'd be here with us. We want them to know that our prayers and thoughts continue to be with them as they fight on. Depending on how you look at it, this off season has either been long or short. But for our fans, and certainly myself included, it's been too long since we've seen racing. We're all eager to get back to Daytona in a couple weeks for the Daytona Speed Weeks events, culminating obviously with the Daytona 500 live on Fox on February 22nd. Today is the first stop of many for you on the tour. We'll hear from a number of people today. Prior to one of the most anticipated seasons in history. Before I get started on today's program, I want to remind everyone of the capstone of this week, which is the NASCAR Hall of Fame inductions. Certainly one of the most important nights of the year on our calendar. This week we'll welcome 5 legends of the sport: Bill Elliott, Fred Lorenzen, Wendell Scott, Joe Weatherly, and Rex White. And if any of you have talked to Rex White since his induction was announced, that's going to be a treat Friday night to hear from Rex. That broadcast will be live on NBC Sports Network, which will be their first broadcast under the new rights agreement. It will also be carried on Sirius XM NASCAR radio as well as MRN. We look forward to seeing everyone there. So let's get today's program started. Lisa France Kennedy's vision for a reimagined Daytona International Speedway is coming together in an incredible way. And when you're there in a couple of weeks, you'll see the incredible progress that's been made with the Daytona Rising project. Certainly very exciting times for the World Center of Racing. Here today to give us an update on that project from Daytona is Daytona President Joey Chitwood.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon. I want to say thank you to NASCAR for allowing me some time today to talk about some exciting things happening in Daytona. I would echo your comments that it has been a short off-season for us as we're watching the championship unfold in Miami, realizing that Daytona is just months away from hosting the biggest event on the NASCAR calendar, whether it's putting the finishing touches on the Dale Earnhardt Jr. TV spot promoting this year's events, or over 1,000 workers one day in December working on our project, to planning the Road to Daytona Media Blitz, in which we've taken close to 20 drivers to almost 11 cities across the U.S., whether it's Boston, Washington, D.C., New York, or a number of spots in Florida. We've been hard at work preparing for what's going to be really special about Budweiser Speed Weeks, Sprint Unlimited, and the Daytona 500. 2 years ago, I stood here and talked about a vision, determination, imagination, and desire. That's what it took to build the Daytona International Speedway in 1958, and we were going to walk in those footsteps and reimagine this American icon. 1 year ago, I showed you video from groundbreaking and a time-lapse. We talked about concrete and steel. We talked about labor, what it takes to build this mammoth project. $400 million, 2.5 years, something that hasn't been done in our sport as we turn this iconic property into a motorsports stadium. I stand in front of you today to talk about reality. Reality is we have 40,000 new seats open and available for this year's Daytona 500. Wider concourses, better seats, the best sightlines in motorsports, vertical transportation, escalators, elevators. We will give our fans something they've never had before when they attend our events in February. We're so excited about this opportunity to kick off the NASCAR season with the biggest event, but also this retransformation of all that's special at Daytona. Next year, I will talk to you about the grand reopening when we put the final pieces in place and this project will truly be done and we can make the claim that we're the first and only motorsports stadium. So for us, we're very excited. It's a great opportunity for a sneak preview of what's happening, and I can tell you already the fans' response have been fantastic, whether it's the sightlines, the amenities, or just the overall look and feel. So as we get geared up to kick off the NASCAR season, we're proud that the media, our fans, our sponsors, the competitors, they're going to be blown blown away when they come to Daytona this year. So a couple weeks away, be ready, whether it's the on-track excitement with NASCAR and the great competitive product they have, or off-track with all the amenities and the way we're going to change the way our fans enjoy our sport. I think the season is going to be fantastic, and I'm just happy that NASCAR and Daytona get to kick it off together with something special. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joey. We're excited to get down there. The NASCAR Drive for Diversity program is a leading youth development program in our industry. Through the Academy-style program led by Rev Racing CEO Max Siegel, who's here with us today, NASCAR is committed to providing world-class training, competition experience, and mentoring to the young, diverse, and female up-and-coming drivers that are out there. The program has been instrumental in launching its participants to the highest levels of competition in NASCAR. We've seen in 2014 the D4D program graduating its third driver to the National Series level, with Daniel Suarez moving up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, joining Darrell Wallace Jr. and 2014 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Sunoco of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Kyle Larson. Their success has sparked an even greater excitement for the future. We're excited about the D4D program.
Diversity is what it's all about. NASCAR's been working hard with Rev Racing to make sure that we've got a pipeline that's full of drivers that are diverse.
I'm for bringing more diversity into the sport.
Hopefully I can get my first win in the NASCAR Can-Am Pro Series.
I'm so thankful for everything that they've done for me.
The sport is growing in different ways and you can be a part of it.
I'm so excited to be here. The people here are awesome.
I'm more excited than anything.
It is incredible to be able to give these young people a platform and showcase their talent and move up in the sport.
This year we have another strong group of drivers selected out of the largest pool of applicants ever for the program. Nearly 100 drivers representing 14 states, Mexico, Colombia, and Canada applied for an opportunity to try out for a spot with Rev Racing at the annual Combine this past October. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the NASCAR Drive for Diversity class of 2015. First up, he is a 23-year-old from Las Vegas, Nevada, who will compete in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East for his second season with Rev Racing, finishing second on the team and 13th overall in the championship point standings with 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s. Please welcome Jay Beasley. Another 23-year-old, this from Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and also returns to Rev Racing for a second season, earning a spot in the K&N Pro Series East after 2 full seasons in the Wheeling All-American Series. Please welcome Devin Amos. Next, she's a 17-year-old from Eagle Creek, Wisconsin, who joins Rev Racing and NASCAR Drive for Diversity for the first time. She will compete in the NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series after 9 feature wins last season while driving limited late and super late models throughout Wisconsin. Please welcome Natalie Decker. Next, 22-year-old from Randolph, Vermont, who earns a spot with Rev Racing in the NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series after competing in his own late model last year. He ran 15 races and finished 38th in the NASCAR Wheeling All-American Series Division I national standings. Please welcome Dylan Smith. 21-year-old from Tampa, Florida, joins Rev Racing for the first time after recording the fastest times at 2 combine tryouts. He will compete in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East after racing asphalt and dirt sprints since he was 16. Please welcome Colin Cabray. And finally, we welcome 22-year-old from El Reno, Oklahoma to Rev Racing and NASCAR Drive for Diversity. While new to the program, she has competed in 2 consecutive full-time seasons in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. In 2014, she finished 9th in points, all while breaking her own series record as the highest finishing driver in series history with a runner-up finish at Iowa Speedway. Please welcome a member of our NASCAR Next program, Kenzie Rustin. Now I'd like to invite NASCAR Chairman and CEO Brian France, Executive Vice President, Chief Racing Development Officer Steve O'Donnell, and Max Siegel to the stage for a photo. Thank you. That good-looking group's the future of NASCAR, and we're excited about them. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2015 NASCAR Drive for Diversity class. It's now my pleasure to welcome to the podium for some competition updates, NASCAR Executive Vice President, Chief Racing Development Officer, Steve O'Donnell. Steve.
Thanks, Brett, and good afternoon, everybody. And once again, I want to acknowledge the fantastic class we have that's part of our Drive for Diversity program. We look for continued incredible success from this group, success we've seen from our recent graduates. Kyle Larson, no pressure, had a pretty good race this weekend down in Daytona. Darrell Wallace Jr. and Daniel Suarez are all examples of where we want this program to go. NASCAR and Rev Racing are committed to growing the Drive for Diversity program, and we're going to continue to build upon our success every day as a sport, a company, and most importantly, I think, as an industry. I want to especially thank Max and Coach Phil, who are here today, for outstanding work, a great partnership, and looking forward to many more years to come. Really appreciate it. So turning our attention just back for a minute to 2014, and I think we'd all agree it was one of the most thrilling seasons we've had in recent memory. And when you look at it, the unmatched racing excitement, culminating in an historic chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, we join all of our fans in anticipation of what's to come for 2015. The revamped chase was certainly a bold initiative, led to some of the most compelling on-track racing action we've seen ever in the sport. From a technology standpoint, NASCAR, guided by our chairman, Brian France, who you'll hear from in a minute, is committed to innovation in all aspects of the sport. And our fans have certainly seen a number of examples of innovation in the past. And in the years to come, we're really enthused about the continued progress we see as we introduce new technology to the sport. And not unlike other seasons, 2014 certainly dealt us with a few weather challenges, particularly here with Joey. However, I think unlike past seasons, the fan experience was not always marred by the long delays on many postponements, due in no small part to the Air Titan certainly doing its job, playing a key role in keeping the race schedule intact during the opening stretch of last season. Just a quick reminder, too, let's not forget that as we head to the road courses, for next year, the weather will become even less of a factor as the teams are fully prepared to tackle the course in the rain if we need to do so. So in 2014, we updated the Air Titan system. We gave it a revolutionary technology, a newer, greener, more effective look, thanks to great partners at Toyota that you see here. All of this, I think it's important to note, was developed just 17 miles from here at NASCAR's Research and Development Center. And we've certainly got more innovation that's in store for the sport in 2015. Now, Joey got up and talked about the Daytona 500, and it's certainly known for its history-making moments. And before a single lap is turned, as we head into Daytona, we already know that 2015, the addition of the Great American Race, will forever have a chapter in the sport's history. It'll be the first NASCAR Sprint Cup Series event to utilize our new pit road technology. And if you haven't heard of the innovation, you soon will. At the heart of this, its purpose is the ability to provide an extraordinary experience to our broadcast partners, the race teams, and ultimately our fans. We're going to do this by way of statistics, video, and data during a NASCAR event. And with this technology, we know that we're going to be safer, we'll be more exact, and we'll realize a fairer and more balanced playing field. So let's take a look at a video of what it's all about.
This trailer is called the Pit Road Officiating Trailer. Essentially, it houses all the technology for us to officiate pit road in an automated fashion. We mount approximately 46 cameras. On an oval, they'll be up above the grandstand. 43 of them look at pit road, and each look at two boxes, so we have backup capability. We use video feed, but we have the computers analyze the video to actually make a call with whether it's green or red. Then it's reviewed by an official, because at times there are extenuating circumstances where the call has to be overridden. So it still has officials viewing it, but the computer makes the initial assessment.
I was an official sitting in our trailer working the race for the day, I would log in like this, and I would immediately start getting pit stops if they were happening on pit road. Example here, I'm handed this pit stop to officiate. Our system has already automatically told me that they've driven through the forbidden box on exit. So I'll just go ahead and go through this stop quickly and show you how our system can verify that that actually happened. We're able to watch it in double speed just because our system tells us automatically about all of the vehicle-related violations, such as this one that we'll see right here. Here, it stops me at the camera shot where he's driving through the 4th pit stall away from him, which is a violation. I approve that and go to the next one.
The beauty of this system is we have our officials in a more safe environment. We have less people, less traffic on pit road. We also have a more accurate way of officiating the sport. We're going to be able to feed this data to fans and broadcasting to actually show penalties. And we're actually going to be able to feed data and video to teams so they can see their infractions and their pit times. So it'll get everybody an enhanced level of understanding the sport.
So really excited about the technology, and in the video you saw that Gene touched on a part of this technology that we're really the most excited about. While we know it's going to provide many benefits to the race teams, the ability for us to have a significant amount of data delivered to our broadcast partners, the race teams as you saw on pit road, but most importantly our fans, we think is a real game changer for the sport. Touch on the rules and want to just say, a quick thanks in large part to the unmatched collaboration we've had really across the industry, from our OEM partners, the race teams, and Goodyear, as we were able to deliver the 2015 rules packages in September, which is earlier than we ever have before. And those rules were delivered for the first time digitally through our simplified rule book, which is used to really increase the objectivity and replace many of the written rules, as you've seen, with computer-aided drawings. We anticipate September of this year, of 2015, beating that marker in 2016, and we'll look to bring the rules package to the teams as early as we can with a target date of looking around the All-Star race for this year. And this only happens thanks to the continued support and the working relationships that I said earlier we have across the industry. We're truly honored to work in a sport that remains cohesive in its march to deliver fans what we believe to be the best racing in the world, while we look to increase the efficiencies and certainly decrease costs where we can, delivering the best racing. A moment ago I talked about fair and balanced competition, and we're pleased that 2015 will be the first full season where our officials, who we believe and we know are the best in the world, will use tablets to digitally log inspection data both at the track and at the Research and Development Center, all to enable them to better understand trends and to assist with the rule development as we go forward. It'll also be the first season with our new parts approval process. This enhanced initiative really formalizes our submission process and approval process and helps develop an electronic database where we can store all of our parts. So this brings me to a much discussed topic from last season, the side skirts. As many of you know, we deliberately decided against any changes near the end of last season. So in 2015, teams manipulating the fenders or flares during a race will be asked to come back down pit road, and we will use any means possible to police that, particularly, though, our new pit road officiating system. So again, we'll look at that through video and any means possible during the race season. And I think one important note there is we worked a lot with the race teams to talk about what was the best way to do that, and this is where we landed heading into the 2015 season. So we continue to work towards the goal of fair, tight competition, offering our fans, again, the best racing in the world, and all of our expectations for competition heading into the Daytona 500 are that it'll be even better this year. We're not going to rest for 2015, 16, or 17, but we look forward to continued progress towards that best racing. So I thank you and look forward to seeing you all in Daytona and appreciate what you all do for the sport. Thanks.
I want to let you know that Steve and Gene will be available for media breakouts in the room right behind us after the program's over today. Before I bring up our chairman, I want to let you know that Brian's going to make a couple remarks from the podium. and from there he will move to an open Q&A. So with that, I'll bring up NASCAR Chairman and CEO Brian France.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the season kickoff here in the media tour. And this is always an exciting time for us because, number one, we're meeting with the teams this week and the owners. Start with that. It's also a time when everybody's, coming off of, in this case, an amazingly strong year. And as Steve said a minute ago, perhaps our greatest chase, and certainly in recent memory. So a lot of excitement, a lot of momentum. And it's also a time when all the teams, have a clean slate. And some of them are with new teams. Some of them have new crew chiefs, new personnel. And there's a sense of optimism and excitement that only this time of the year happens. So it's great to be here in January. Want to talk a little bit about the chase because it's overwhelmingly popular with the most important stakeholder, our fans. And the research and data that we've got in over the winter not only suggests that, it determines that loud and clear. And they like the fact that it tightened up competition. They like the drama down the stretch. They like the emphasis on winning. And one of the things they told us that they really liked is the idea that we weren't going to change anything. And they strongly suggested that we didn't, and we're not going to. And it's not because there aren't a tweak or two here that we didn't get good suggestions on, but one of the magical parts of this chase, and we want to make sure we keep it this way, is the simplicity of it. Win and you get in. Be in the top 8, top 4, whatever it may be, and move on. Coming down to the stretch, it's beat the other 3 drivers and you win the championship. And so whatever we would do into the future, we want to make sure that simplicity is right there. The other thing I think you can expect to see are the strategies next year by the teams, because they're undoubtedly going to be looking at how things went. Some of the strategies they use to get in the chase. I think winning, obviously, no question about that. I think you're going to see teams trying to win earlier. I think the strategies coming in and out of those transfer events are going to change, and that's going to make it that much more exciting as the teams and the drivers get a better feel for this format. I want to take a moment, though, to welcome back NBC and Comcast and Xfinity and the 10-year relationship that we launched this year. They're very excited that this is a central part of what happens at NBC Sports and within the Comcast companies. Not to mention Xfinity is replacing Nationwide. We're really pleased about that as well. But their enthusiasm, their lineup of talent, their integration and all of their promotional assets, and just the way that they're going to partner with us to present the sport because of how important it is for them and for us. We're very excited about that for sure. Steve mentioned a moment ago about the technology advancements, pit road and otherwise. And, I've said over the last 4 or 5 years, we were going to be on I call it a steady march towards innovation. We were going to balance that with the cost and the benefits to the individual teams and to the sport. But given that the car manufacturers in particular and everybody else has innovation on their minds as part of their DNA, NASCAR needed to follow suit with that. We also want to be a place that if you bring some of the greatest technology companies into our sport to look around, I want them to look around and see that we're a relevant place for them to market their technologies, their own innovation. They're going to feel comfortable here. Maybe that hasn't always been the case, but it will be now and into the future. It's very important for us. the other thing that I have frequently outlined are our green initiatives. And I know from time to time, I've gotten a lot of long looks like, really, NASCAR, you're burning fossil fuel, and how can you guys lead in an area? Well, that's kind of innovation, number one. It's not kind of, it is innovation. But it's also, for all the right reasons, a way for NASCAR to take the lead in something so important to millennial fans, to ourselves, and to our stakeholders, which is preserving our environment in a way that is better off than when we started out. So I'm pleased to say that all of our green initiatives are building momentum. All of our stakeholders within the ecosystem, that our drivers, teams, and tracks are participating, and it's improving things on and off the track. I want to make mention too, and I'll say I'm sure this will come up in the Q&A, is our relationships and our communications with our drivers, teams, and tracks, in particular our drivers and our owners. And I got to tell you, it's never been stronger. And I don't just say that because it's convenient to say. I say that because of all the input, all the meetings that some you folks see, some you don't, that happen all the time. It happen in different places that are going on. I chair a lot of them. And I think when you talk to the teams and the drivers, there's an unprecedented amount of cooperation and input as we look at rules packages now and into the future. Where is the sport going? Where do they fit in? What are their concerns? That's going to continue, and frankly, it's one of the key reasons I made sure that our two senior people were based right here in Charlotte to be as close as possible with our drivers and our teams. That's Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps, and they have been, and that's serving us well. So those were no small thing on our part to make sure that we're plugged in with that key, those key stakeholders. The other key stakeholder that we're joining at the hip closer and closer are the car manufacturers. And last week we met in Detroit around the auto show, their busiest time, I might tell you. And all three manufacturers were highly representative and greatly appreciated the time that we got to spend together, and so did we, because we shared our plans for now and into the future, how they fit in, how central they are to that, and they shared theirs. So that relationship with the car manufacturers never been more important and never been running better. And lastly, I want to close on one thing, and that is a recent announcement with Jeff Gordon. And Jeff's a friend of ours, friend of mine personally. And certainly, I don't have to tell you what he's done for the sport. I don't have to tell you the amazing accomplishments on and off the track. And I just wanted to, from everybody at NASCAR, wish him a strong final season. Came real close to competing and trying to win his another championship. And I know he's going to try to accomplish that, certainly on his final year. But we'll wish him well. I know he's not going to go too far from the sport one way or the other, but I did want to recognize Jeff's amazing career with NASCAR. So with that, I'm going to take some questions. Thank you.
We have two wireless mics with Jenny and Laura on each side. Ask that you please state your name and affiliation, and we'll get it started with Claire B. Lang right here in the middle.
Thank you. Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Brian, what do you think the single biggest challenge facing NASCAR this coming season is, and you know how you plan to deal with it? But lots of things we can talk about, but pick one big one.
Well, I don't think we have a glaring weakness per se, but I think our biggest challenge is our biggest opportunity, and that's getting the rules packages exactly where we want them. We're making a lot of progress on that. Drivers have been, as you know, participating in a lot of tests with us. These are more targeted tests. They're more focused on what what works properly for us and into the future. We said we're going to be earlier than ever at getting the rules packages to the teams. That's helpful in a lot of ways for them to get comfortable with what we're doing. From a cost standpoint, they're able to phase in, phase out the old packages with the new. We're targeting sometime in the spring, which would be an historic thing for NASCAR to be that early with the 16 rules package. But that's clearly, and it's the hardest thing we do, by the way. It's because we're balancing safety, we're balancing costs, we're balancing a whole bunch of different ideas and agendas and opinions. And so but at the end of the day, that's what makes NASCAR safe, unbelievably tight competition, and we can do all the format things that we want to do and that we should do. But nothing takes the place of rules that are relatively inexpensive, I say relatively, and most importantly, create exciting, safe competition.
Let's go over to Al Pierce, Alan Cavanna, and Jim Utter.
Yeah, Brian, Al Pierce, Motor Week. A personal question not related to race itself. You were very young when your grandfather was running the show.
Yeah.
And you grew up basically as your father ran the show. Did you learn anything from your grandfather that you now apply? And what did you learn from your father that you now use?
Well, I'm often asked that. They had very different styles. My grandfather was more of a, sort of a bold leader, a consensus builder, and, my father was more of a guy that's just hands-on, make it happen every day. And so you try to learn, things from both, if you're me, and apply them to the approach that, and how I am, how I operate. But what's really clear, Al, is, things are things are very, very different today. They're much more complex. And the amount of people that we have, experts in individual disciplines. Used to be we had to have marketing discipline, and of course we still do, and now it's digital media, and now on the rules packages and getting that right. And we have all these other initiatives like diversity, which we have to have a good plan for, green initiatives, and all the rest. It takes a lot of smart, talented people in this industry that, my job is to communicate with them and make sure that we keep hitting our goals.
Go to Alan, Jim, and Viv Bernstein.
Alan Cavanna, Fox Sports. In your eyes, what criteria will you use to judge the new rules package? Will you consider in-season tweaks to it, and when do you think is a fair time to judge it?
Well, we try not to do too many in-season tweaks to any rules package because of unless there's a safety concern. Because of costs. We judge it quite simply by, lead changes, how close race winning is, how many different winners, how each car manufacturer is able to, have a fair shot at competing. And there's plenty of data to help us with that. And then there's just, watching what we watch about what makes up good racing. But it's close, tight competition. Hopefully lots of lead changes, hopefully lots of excitement down the stretch. Close finishes.
Go Jim, Viv, and then over to Jenna Fryer.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer. This is kind of another question on the rules package, but my question is, it seems as of late anyway that we have a new rules package. It's kind of a foregone conclusion starting each season. Is that necessarily always going to be the case? And is there some final point that you're working on, or is the quest for, quote, better racing something that will really, there isn't really a final kind of spot?
There's no final. It'll always evolve. And the reason for that is, the teams are always trying to gain an advantage, and that's what they do, right? They go out, whatever package we present, and they try to lead every lap, and they try to have an advantage. And so our job is to make sure that the playing field is level, and that more teams have a good shot at competing at a high level. And given that it always changes, we have to change too. And circumstances change. The tires change, tracks wear down differently. We change tracks from time to time. So there are other variables outside of what even the teams do that will always keep us looking ahead.
Okay, we'll go to Viv, Jenna, and then Tom Jensen.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen some dramatic headlines regarding Kurt Busch. I'm wondering about the negative publicity generated by that, and do you second guess at all or reconsider in the future how you handle those situations, given the Mueller report sort of said the NFL should have been more proactive in their issue?
Well, I've said that, I think you're referring to domestic violence. I've said that I think every sport is taking a more than a hard look. They're doing what they should be doing. I've also said I think society is kind of good that way. It has a way of evolving important issues for individual sports leagues to conform and make sure that we get it right. And so I think you're going to see us, and I'm sure most other leagues as well, when there are those clear circumstances, have a much more severe reaction to how you deal with those things, and that will be no different with NASCAR. The only thing we want to do is, and this is important, is we got to let the facts come in. There'll be no reason for me or NASCAR or anybody else to get ahead of those facts, given that they may change. Let's let the facts come in, and and if there's something for us to react to, you can appreciate that we will be very careful and very aware of what the circumstances are.
With Jenna, Tom, and then Jeff Gluck.
Jenna Fryer, Associated Press. I'm back in the back corner.
Yeah, okay.
You specifically mentioned Jeff Gordon, and I think that you've used this forum before to say how important it is for guys like Jeff specifically and Dale Jr. to make the chase and to be competitive. As he's getting ready to move on, and other drivers like Dale and Tony are in their 40s, and very few drivers have the ability to reach beyond sports fans. How does NASCAR create stars to fill those voids?
You're looking at some potentials right here who can take us to a different audience too, which is the beauty of our diversity program. When I announced it, I don't know, well over 10 years ago. But we've got other drivers, Chase Elliott coming on with very highly talented, lots of credentials and cachet back to the past with his father, being the Hall of Fame, of course, here on Friday night. And other talented drivers that are young and aggressive and are going to bring their own style to NASCAR. So, the changing of the guard, that's always part of sports, part of NASCAR, and that's what you count on to have, a great farm system of aspiring talent, hopefully of a diverse background, to let their talents and their abilities land, with the Sprint Cup Series.
With Tom, Jeff, and Marty Smith.
Hi, Brian. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com.
Okay.
You were asked earlier about what the biggest challenge facing NASCAR is. With so much in the landscape changing in recent years, what's your biggest upside or biggest opportunity? Is it new drivers coming in, new track amenities like you're doing with Daytona, new things on broadcast? Where do you see the upside?
Well, I think the upside's balanced against that we have a hugely competitive sports landscape. So, and we know that, and that's very obvious. But the upside is, getting the racing better and better. And we saw, big gains in our research with how our casual and avid fans almost equally like the chase format. and the drama and excitement that brought to them. And so, you know, we've got a lot of initiatives and different lanes going that are responsible, smart things that we're doing for our stakeholders who count on us to have to make a lot of good decisions and try to be as forward-thinking on these things as we possibly can. And we do that in a context that I always say this, and it's often it's easy to go by. There's nowhere in the world that has the plethora of sports that this country offers almost every day, every evening, 12 months a year. And we're very fortunate that NASCAR fits in a prominent way, and we just want to keep that alive and build on that.
We'll go Jeff, Marty, and then over to Nate Ryan.
Jeff Clark from USA Today. You mentioned that you were considering some tweaks to the chase, and then ultimately, because of the fan feedback and the success of the chase, you decided not to go with those. What were some of the things you were considering, and could we see those in future years if the chase doesn't necessarily go as well as this one did this last year?
Well, I won't give you any specifics other than to say, you know, the normal things that you would, you would think of that drivers who fell out or teams that fell out for one reason or another in the chase would have liked to have seen, a different point system within a point system, or some of those ideas that would have possibly helped them in this particular year. But where we get back to is, how do we keep it simple? And we made it as simple as we possibly could. That was goal number one. And, in any change that we would make, even if it were helpful and reasonably easy to understand, it would still be something different. And our view is, let's keep it exactly what we have it now. It's going to take, a fair amount of time for, even our avid fan base to really sort out, the strategies necessary to compete. And as I said earlier in my remarks, advance from one round to the next. Why is a transfer race really that important? Well, you saw it at each transfer race, right? You saw Talladega come up and all the drama that presented, and you saw a strategy that I think Kyle Busch had, which was he was comfortably in, so he ran in the back, and that didn't work out very well. So fans are like everybody else, they're keeping up with this, but it's not it's not without its own interesting twists, turns, and complexities, and we want to make sure that's fully digested before we do anything in the future.
Well, Marty, Nate, and then Bob Pockris.
Thank you. Marty Smith, ESPN. Brian, I'm over to your right.
Okay, I'll find you.
Hi, way in the back. It's all right, man. You don't need to worry.
And you're the football guy now, right?
Football guy, that's right.
Make sure I got that.
Thank you for noticing.
Hey, I was to make sure we didn't have another Marty Smith.
He is such an observant chairman. Well done. You sat here last year and told us that it was ultimately your decision to implement the new chase format.
Yeah.
For the sport's credibility, how important was it that it worked out how it did?
I don't know how to answer that. I guess it was really important. I mean, it was an important step. Had some risks, like anything that is controversial would have, and anything that fools around with tradition will have a big thing. But we were pretty, we wouldn't do something, and I certainly wouldn't, if we didn't have a high degree of certainty it was the right step for us. So I think it was important, but we'll never know, because it did work out, and thankfully it did.
Nate, Bob, and then right here in the middle.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Brian, the hunt for a new title sponsor, the last time you needed one, you brokered a deal in which RGR was replaced by Nextel with 4 years left on Nextel's deal. Sprint's deal ends in 2016. As you search for a replacement, is there a chance that Sprint could exit next season if a new sponsor is found? And as far as the length of that next title sponsor deal, are you looking for 10 years again, or is a shorter term possible?
Well, I don't anticipate anybody be in a position to leave early. but we'll get out into the marketplace and see. And the longer, generally speaking, Nate, that these agreements can last, the better, because they're building their brand, in the most important area of NASCAR. So I think the longer the better, and it's the most coveted position in sports because of the positioning of it. So we'll get out and see where we're at.
Bob, and then Dustin, and then over to Pete Pistone.
Bob Hawker, Sporting News. Brian, have you had any productive discussions with Rob Kaufman in his role as the leader of the Race Team Alliance, and has your opinion of the RTA changed at all since its announcement?
We have conversations, frequently with Rob and all the owners. We're going to be meeting with them later on this week, and so that's all going. I think our position is, we hope that they achieve their stated goals, and I think they're working on them, and we don't have a lot to do with that. That's kind of they're on their own, their own timeline with all that, and we're doing what we normally do, which is get input from everybody, so that we can make really good decisions, and that's the way it was, and that's the way it will be.
Dustin and Pete, and back here to the back.
Justin Long, NBC Sports. Brian, you talked at Daytona in July about the barrier to entry for car owners, and talked about it was slow, that there was progress needing to be made there. 6 months later, where are you in regards to that? Or are you looking at the idea of allowing the current car owners to expand from the 4-car limit to 5 or more?
Well, we're not looking to expand from the current 4. But it's true. I think we would like to see the barrier to entry always be lower rather than higher. This is an open sport, and it's open to teams and drivers who fit the specifications and can compete at a high level. But it's also an expensive undertaking to go racing at the highest level, and that's, by the way, that's as it should be, because there's a lot to come in and compete against for anybody to look at this. So, but we're that's one of the missions that Steve O'Donnell and his team are always taking into consideration, and that goes to our business model for our teams. It goes to the rules packages, and are we making things easier? Are we lowering things? Are we making it easier for new teams to look at coming in and competing with NASCAR? Or do you need all this institutional knowledge and all of this expertise and technology that only a few can have? We think that's not where we want to be. We want to have an open sport where if you've got the will to compete, we're going to make it as easy as reasonably possible for you to compete in this sport.
To Pete Pistone, and then here to the back, and then to the gentleman in the red.
Pete Pistone, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, MRN.com. You were talking about the general sports landscape, Brian. Going into 2015, where do you see NASCAR fitting into that conversation? And can you address the delicate balance of how you grow the sport, attract new fans, but keep the core fans happy as well?
Well, the last part of your question first. That's always, I get that question a lot. Well, how do you manage, attracting new fans? Because you have to do some new initiatives, and things that are appealing to millennial fans may not be appealing to some of the traditional fans. But at the end of the day, our traditional fans love one thing. They love safe, exciting, real tight racing. And if the packages and the formats give that to them, then they're generally pretty happy. And millennial fans and other new fans, well, they may have different time constraints. They may have different things that excite them, and different ways to consume, our sport or any sport. And so we're working on that too. And the good thing is that none of it really competes with one another. It really is complementary. If we go after the millennial fan on one end and make sure that we're giving our core fans exactly what they want, they usually go together at the end of the day.
So the back, the red, and then we'll wrap up with Stan right here in the middle.
Hi, Andrew Sorensen with Time Warner Cable News. All the way in the back over here.
Okay.
Sorry. Looking at declining attendance, declining TV ratings over the last 10 years, even declining video game sales, how do you tackle all that and keep your sport alive?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll give you an optimistic answer because it's true, and that is that, we've had some good gains in certain situations with our attendance. We know that the economy, fuel prices and all that, are helping. Finally coming down, finally getting a little bit better, taking a long time to get through that. We were hardest hit, as you well know, because of the length of miles and the long stay that our fans make when they go to events. Hotel rooms and whatever else is not, and fuel prices and so on are a lot different than going to a football or basketball game in their hometown. So that's changed things for us in that respect. And I would tell you that every sport has some challenge in one capacity with their live gate because of the economy and because of how great television is to watch most sports on television. So everybody has some thing that they're trying to make the live experience even better, and we're no different. And on television, we got great partners. We still, even if we're off of our highs, we're still one or two almost every weekend, coming in and out of every weekend from February to September. With millions and millions of fans, and they're digesting it different. I mean, you look at our digital numbers, the billion downloads and millions of people every week, unique users on our site. So we have to, when you judge it all, we're pretty comfortable that this is not only the most dominant motorsport in North America by a wide margin, but we're competing nicely with, as I said in the beginning, with the most competitive sports landscape in the world. No question about that. So we feel good about things, but that doesn't mean they're easy. It doesn't mean we take anything for granted, and or that we're not working all the time to make improvements.
Right back here in the red, and we'll wrap it up with Stan.
Lane Casadante from CBS in Richmond, piggybacking off of that, with the fact that some of your more popular tracks are repurposing seating areas, does it end with the fact that the Chase was different in terms of your standard racing format? Does it give you a reason to consider changing other formats with your events, maybe not next year or 2 years, but 5 or 10 years down the road?
We don't really want to do that. I mean, and the reason that we don't, we want to have the Sprint Cup Series be very unique, and it's unique to all motorsports for obvious reasons. And if we, changed our other series to be, to complement that, it would lose some of that uniqueness. And some of them don't even lend themselves with how long the events are and their season is, rather, and so on. So our preference would be to, reserve some of the unique formats and other, all-star events, et cetera, for the Sprint Cup Series.
Right here, last one, Stan.
Hi, Brian. Stan Creekmore with Competition Plus. When you look at the challenges today versus the challenges of the 60s and 70s or the 50s even, when you look at the challenges of your grandfather and your father, do you think of anything they said to you that, even though the challenges are different, still help you beat the challenges, meet them, and exceed?
The one theme that they always had, and that our family has too, for that matter, is everybody at the end of the day has to win, has to have the right outcomes for themselves, and all of our stakeholders do. And I would tell you that was impressed upon me, still is, that whatever decisions we make, they can't be just good for a few people. They have to be good for our whole industry. And sometimes when you're talking to one stakeholder or another, it's easy to miss that, right? And because they're focused on what's important right in front of them. And so I take that with me. The other thing I would tell you, while the complexities are much greater, stakes are much higher than than back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or at any time. So is the opportunity, and so are the people within, not only within NASCAR that help me manage every day, but within the industry. So we've got more talent, more smart people trying to figure out these difficult problems, more help in those areas than my father or grandfather or some of the early pioneers of this sport ever had to manage. That includes go to the teams. I mean, the drivers have arguably a harder time winning today with more competitive teams, but they also have a lot of help. They got a lot of teammates to get them where they need to go, and I've got a lot of teammates that help me get where we need to go, and that's what keeps us going. So good. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your time.
All right.
I want to let you know several members of our executive management team will be in the breakout room. A member of my team can help you get what you need. Again, we want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for the whole week. We hope it's very productive, and we'll see you in Daytona. Thank you.